You're listening to the Vanadium Registry. In days of yore, there were a people who sought a fortune of mythical weaponry. However, what they were told was a treasure was actually an imprisoned curse. Once found, they were transformed into the very power that they sought to wield. Fashioned by the flames of their own greed and scarred with indelible brands, the fates of many were sealed. Just as the artifacts had enticed them, their new existence invited those who sought to hunt them for glory and servitude. Over time, they were conquered into extinction and forgotten by all but legend. That was until rumors began that people known as forges existed, concealing themselves among Vazalian citizens, wielding powers that rival the nobles, and echoing an eerie similarity to those from fable. And now, Recollection Report 1, The Sacrifices of Science. For as long as I can remember, I've always been curious about the things hidden deep within the folds of life. At times, it felt like everything asked me a question, and I needed to answer them all. Frankly, my quest for truth is more like a game, really. An adventure of sorts that was just more enjoyable than playing make-believe, riding bikes, or anything else the kids my age were doing. Sure, at times it got lonely. But my diligence paid off when I began working at Vazalia's Central Testing Bureau of Enhancements, 8 years before any of my peers might add. This is incredible, Chandler. Synthesizing the core's augmentative abilities into a single liquid tablet. This is going to change everything for us, beamed my lab assistant Greta. Well, its uses are practically infinite. And with its casing, it's now as compact as a pill but as strong as titanium. So yes, I suppose those overconfident windbags will have to take our research more seriously at the next meeting. I take a second to admire the jewel-like capsule and hold it up to the light. Overconfident windbags? Now I hope you're not talking about my mother and I, said a woman, leaning against the lab's doorframe. Miss Melissa, I greeted as I instinctively adjusted my clothes. What are you doing here? I came by to check on your progress. Based on what I heard, my timing couldn't be more perfect. Well, you're mistaken. Yes, the tablet casing is a success, but like I told you last time, we are looking for partnership elsewhere. But we agreed that you'd take more time to think about our collaboration, Melissa said while smoothing out my collar. No, you agreed that I'd take more time, I say, taking an obvious step away from her. I told you my decision then. If our offer wasn't generous enough, just say it. Chandler, maybe we should consider the arrangement. Greta intervened. It was one thing we hadn't perfected it yet, but now with its modifications, we do have more of a say. At least the parrot on your shoulder has a brain and knows a good deal when you have one, love. Not only do I have a brain, but I don't have to strut around labs where I'm not wanted in the name of my mother's money. And I have no intentions of letting you and your family of vultures pick apart my inventions, love. My words still the air and hang for almost an uncomfortable amount of time. You forget who my family of vultures are, Chandler, threatened Melissa as she left the room. Are you serious, Chandler? The Kviatoslavas have ties throughout the Medians. She can blacklist all of us for what you just did. At the time, I thought her anger was justified. However, I assumed she'd be able to understand my actions once we demonstrated the project's potential and found a better company to partner with. But I was wrong. We never got a chance to present anything. Because later that week, when I was working late in the lab, I was identified as a forge. While I was performing a few menial tasks in the lab, a cooling reactor malfunctioned and released a gas that filled the room with a sweet-smelling haze. I went to activate the lab's emergency ventilation protocol when, boom, the reactor exploded, sending me flying into nearby equipment. At a peculiar rate, the flames from the explosion began devouring the room. As I rose from the floor, what should have been a faint birthmark on my wrist was now fully revealed to be my birthmark, the brand that identifies every forge. Suddenly, my eyes began to throb, and my vision began to alter. This was a familiar feeling, the harbinger of my powers. My attempts to regain control were futile, and as my final efforts slipped from my grasp, a blast from where I stood rippled across the room, distorting reality, causing everything in the lab to teeter between the probable and the impossible. The generators became carnivorous plants. The floor was now on a nearby wall, and the lights had become globs of floating water. I shut my eyes. I tried to focus on the truth within my surroundings, to feel what I knew was there, instead of what my powers were presenting. The flames remained, but I couldn't tell if they were now a product of my hallucinogenic abilities or not. I've lost control of my powers before, but this time was different. It was almost as if my powers had turned on me, instead of any outward target. Has the commotion gathered my nocturnal colleagues? Have they seen my burn mark? Or are they also being affected by my illusions? Shards of glass rained from above as soldiers broke through the skylight and poured into the room, all pointing their guns at me. I couldn't tell if they were real or not. My question was soon answered when one of the soldiers shot me in the arm. As a reaction, my powers consumed them, bringing their most horrific fears to life, causing them to attack each other. I hate this. I've always hated this. I value and seek the truth to comfort and advance society, not to punish them with lies and torment them with the shadows of their own mind. But no one would believe such intentions, to belong to such contrary actions. So I ran. I took advantage of the mayhem to escape before more soldiers came. As I pushed past my own nightmares to reach the exit, I was practically crawling on the floor when someone called out to me. Standing behind me was Greta, completely calm, as if none of this was happening at all. I couldn't take the risk of her being real or not. No, stay away from me, Greta, I warned, terrified at what my powers could do to her. Chandler, what's wrong? Are you okay? I shifted away from her with every step she took, but despite my pleads, she kept coming closer. And then suddenly, she hugged me. That simple action caused everything to begin to calm. The encroaching flames died out. The room stopped melting, and my eyes stopped throbbing. I felt myself begin to regain control of my powers. When I looked up to thank Greta, she wasn't there anymore. Or, no, was she not there at all? I thought to myself. As I blinked away the last of my illusions, someone stabbed me in the back with a syringe. Before I could see who did it, a soldier hit me across the face with something. The last things I saw were a metal box being rolled towards me. a silver collar being brought to my neck, and a room full of soldiers circling me like vultures. The Vanadium Registry is a Studio Imbe production. This show is written and performed by Asia Ansley. Original soundtrack, mixing, and video editing is also by Asia Ansley. Likewise, all artwork and cover art is by Asia Ansley. Learn more about the Vanadium Registry and view the series at our website, imbe.studio. The Vanadium Registry is a listener-supported production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting us on Buy Me a Coffee and by sharing our work. Thank you.